Welcome back to the $2 Film Club. Today we are talking about the first three entries in the Predator series. How do I say this without it sounding confusing? I want to say mainline Predator movies, but to be honest, with every new installment, I'm not really sure which of the other movies it's ignoring. So I don't know. Uh, yeah, we're talking about Predator, Predator Two, and Predators. Because the new one, Predator Badlands, is coming out. Or no, it's already out, isn't it? Fuck, I
Yeah,
can't even
it's
remember.
out. No, it's out.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
getting pretty good reviews too. Which, like,
yeah.
honestly, did you watch Prey at all?
I did. That was the last Predator movie that I saw. Thank God, because you and me were just talking about the the one that came up before that one, and it's not very good.
It like I was saying, like when we were talking about it, it just blows my mind that Shane Black, one person who's was involved, like I'm not saying heavily, but involved quite enough in that original Predator film to come into the modern day in 2018 and absolutely just take the world's fattest dookie all over like this well-known franchise is an absolute masterclass in disaster, if you asked me. But it's a good thing we have the first one where instead of him ruining the franchise by making a really poor film, he just talks about how women's pussies are
Oh,
uh
so gigantic or
so
whatever.
gigantic that you can hear the reverb. Or it might not be that, but it's another joke regarding a woman's genital areas. And I'll be honest, bro, I've seen this film so many times and I don't remember Shane Black of all people in the original Predator film to be like the perverted one. I don't know why.
How do you mean? Like you don't?
Like I don't know the what I I'm figuring out a way to say this because Predator I never watched in order. I watched so, dude, this is gonna kill you. So I watched Predators first
That was how
when
I
I was
saw it.
younger.
I saw
Yeah,
Predators first.
I saw Predators first, and then I saw I went backwards, and then I saw Predator two, and then I saw Predator, and really interesting because the first one is I give it a high remark. I think it's a really good film. I just think it's a film of its time, and I think it shows a little bit. And I'm not only just talking about like in terms of the script. I'm not talking about the amazing one-liners too. Those are like its own separate category of like written dialogue. Honestly, I'm pretty sure the one-liners in this film aren't even written on the film in the script. I'm sure they're on set, and Arnold Schwarzenegger really just said, "Wow, you really are just one ugly motherfucker." I swear to God, he just said that by accident. They caught it on camera. Um, but yeah, going back to the original Predator film, I had a good time with. I don't know about you.
I mean, I always have a good time returning to the first one. The first one's really the only one that I ever actively returned to. I mean, I've never seen the Predator or Predator 2 before today actually. Um and Predators I as much as I enjoy that film, I also don't return to it as much. I mean, it always takes me a while to kind of get back in the mood for some of these movies. Which is both a good and a bad thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just Predator, Predator. I think was one of the first non-Terminator movies that I saw with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. Um, that it felt different from Terminator in a lot of ways, and so I feel like I latched onto it for that reason. And I mean, a lot of the other ones, especially the two ones that we're talking about next, kind of don't really do anything that much more interesting than what happens in the first one. So I think that's kind of why I struggle to return to them.
Yeah, I think the first one has that the others is a pretty just strong main cast of characters, and I'm not talking about writing. I'm just talking about the actors themselves who have like I feel
Oh
like a
yeah.
lot of charisma with each other that I feel like is missing in the others. Well, I think there's a lot of interesting comparisons with Predators that I think we'll talk about a little bit later. But for this one, I think just them all kind of being those stereotypical beefed up
Macho.
like macho beef heads. Like, bro, what? Literally, I know we do our letterboxed reviews at the end, but I
Oh.
just thought the one quote at the beginning of Predator was just like the funniest fucking thing on this planet, and it was talking about how T Rexes are like always horny or you're a horny T Rex or something. And this film just has like some really out there and wild comments by these
Oh.
actors that just like you know they're not written on screen on the script, and it just makes me feel a little bit more connected to who they are individually, because as a group I don't think they're the best outside of like Dutch and Dylan, which is like Schwarzenegger and Weathers.
Yeah.
You've got Anna, but like honestly she's kind of a nothing character in this film that I don't it's going to be kind of hard to talk about because her character is like we'll get to it later,
I mean,
but
at least she's not like a love interest for any of the characters. I That's kind of the one thing that I appreciate about her inclusion is that they're never really like overly sexual towards her, if that makes sense. And you'd kind of
no, I
expect
get it.
that to be in this kind of movie.
No, yeah, that makes sense. My issue comes from her point in the film rather than like what they do with her.
Mm.
Is more so that the way they introduce her is I think it's through Dylan like the way Dylan sets them up to investigate everything, and she kind of just becomes this stray bystander that just comes along for the journey that never feels like she ever really adds anything once you get the reveal of why they're really there.
Mm.
And it kind of just feels like to put a woman in there to mix it up because there's just so much fucking testosterone in this one group that I think when they were filming, they're like, okay, guys, 20 minutes in, we've got two of the biggest and burliest guys fucking arm wrestling each other. They're trying to do the Stallone versus Schwarzenegger who's got a bigger knife thing. Like these guys are walking around with fucking miniguns in the middle of the wood, in the middle of the forest. Like it's just so masculine to such a degree that I don't know if you could actually have this film without her at the same time.
Mm.
And that's why like I get kind of torn in between her character because I feel like she doesn't offer much of anything to the story, especially once the twist happens. But I feel like the film is just too masculine to go on by itself. Like I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does. I mean, she does kind of feel like more of a plot device slash convenience most of the time. I feel like her inclusion was meant to be more like add more stakes to like the hunt because obviously she's like just an unarmed woman. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like even that doesn't really add much. And then just the fact that we don't really get much of a resolution to her inclusion in the story either kind of makes it a little worse.
Well, that's my problem with this franchise as a whole is they seem to always resolve the conflicts of the films in like a comic series. They did the same
Oh,
with Predator 2 and they did the same with Predators. And they did the same with this one. And so I mean, I hate to talk about this. So have you seen the Hulu film, the Predator one, Killer of Killers?
no, I haven't. Oh, I
I
know what you're
haven't
talking about though.
I don't know how to talk about this because I don't say this too often, but this is a spoiler for Predator Killer of Killers, just because wraps up to like how everything is really connected, whether it makes sense or not, because each film just sequentially contradicts one another up until you get to Prey. But neither here or there. At the end of Killer of Killers, in like a post credit scene, you see Dutch and what's his name from the second one? Why am I blanking on it?
Harrigan.
Harrigan. You see them both in like a cryostasis pod that the predators kept them in.
Isn't the girl from Prey in there as well?
Yeah, the girl from Prey's in there as well, and you learn in some comic that Anna, after the first one, just kind of lives her life. Her and Dutch just go their separate ways, like, which is another reason why like I have more of an issue with like I have an issue with all of the endings of these films. That's just going to be my mainstay now, is because they all kind of feel like they leave the audience kind of looking for more, and I can never like tell you what it is. But like I leave Predator 2, and I leave Predators being like, damn, bro, I know I just watched like this cool epic showdown, but I don't really feel like that was the ending. Like I don't know if you felt the same way. I feel like not as
I
much
mean,
maybe in the second one, but
no,
Predator and Predators, I really feel it.
I feel it more in Predator 2 and Predators than I do for the first one. I think the first one kind of gets away with it because the focus is a lot more on like them trying to survive and then like the showdown and everything with the titular predator. But I feel like in Predator 2 and in Predators, you know, because you kind of already have a good understanding of the concept, you're kind of looking for more answers than the films ever really want to give you. I mean, like we see the inside of like the spaceship in Predator 2, but they don't really explain anything about, like why there's a bunch of other ones there and whatnot, like why they're in um Los Angeles instead of in the jungle. Because the thing about Predator and Predators is that they both share the idea that this is not the first time that the predators have come to Earth, but specifically they mention like specific like folklore elements to dealing with like predators coming to Earth and like hunting, if that makes sense. And then Predator 2 just sort of alludes to it with like the gun at the end, but then it's still like it doesn't explain anything that we don't already know, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I get it. And like the thing that bothers me is like even with that pistol, like once they get back around to it, the pistol is equivalent to nothing. Like it's not cool. Like it's cool when you don't know what the point or purpose of it is, and once you tell people there's no real purpose or point outside of it was from a long time ago, so you know that they've been here a long time. Like I think it takes away that wow factor, but I agree to that extent. Like for I think a good example is at the or in a comic run, I think it was after Predators released. I don't know like how the story exactly goes, but from what I can remember from reading is I gotta look up the character from those films. Sorry, I'm going to the Wikipedia for it. And it's not telling me right here. Am I just fried? Yes, I am. I'm stupid, but I don't want to call him Adrian Brody in the film because they only say his
His
name
name's
once, and
Royce.
Royce. Okay, the fucking Wikipedia doesn't even tell me what his name is in the film. But after you see Royce and Isabel walk away after watching like people and cages fall from the sky again,
Hmm.
they find another ship. She escapes while Royce stays. And he just kind of, I don't want to say he becomes Lawrence Fishburne, but like he wants to stay and hunt the predators. Yeah, it's just really
Okay.
random for the way the film ends because you would never expect it to end that way. And she makes it back to Earth, I'm pretty sure, in that story too.
Yeah, but I mean, it's probably implied by the, the animated one that they come back and capture her and
Dude,
cryogenically.
plot twist.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That sounds really dumb. I mean, I feel like part of the reason why it's like that is because obviously Predator the time in between us getting Predators and Predator 2, it was like a 20-year gap. And so I feel like with them trying to continue the story and like people not wanting really having any interest in coming back. And also, I feel like Predator 2 and Predators didn't do well enough to even warrant a continuation or a sequel. So I feel like that's why a lot of the time it kind of feels like, the whatever like loose ends were, left untied in their own films have to get relegated to, comic issues and other media and whatnot because that's really all that's left for it.
Which is what makes it all the funnier because like they did it in the least effective manner possible by doing it like that way and like not even doing it well. Um, it's just confusing because especially when you like I don't want to compare, but it's hard to not like look at this franchise and the Alien franchise and see how different they both played out when I feel like they were both kind of put under the same roof for a while. Even still to this day, especially with the Alien versus Predator films, that
Well, I mean, the new one that came out too is pretty.
yeah, they the robot that the Fanning girl plays is one of the robots from the Alien film. So
Yeah.
it's just like it's very heavily influenced. So I just find it interesting that Predator went down the path of it just went down the path of being a generic 80s film and then it tried to expand, but it clearly had a really hard time doing it because both Predator 2 and Predators say the exact same backstory about how they know who these aliens are. And I shit you not, I am pretty sure it is the exact same line that they both said in the different films. Um,
I mean, they both reference the events of Predator.
no, but they say the Guatemalan girl exactly the same way. Like that's the thing is like they literally say the exact same sentence, bro. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm just like, damn, even in 2010, you can't even like this is fucking I was gonna say Alex Rodriguez. That would have been really bad. Robert Rodriguez. Like even Robert Rodriguez couldn't even come up with something better. He went back to something in 1990 and just used the exact same quote. Um just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think obviously none of these movies are perfect, and I agree with what you're saying in terms of like sometimes it feels like not a lot can be resolved in any one film. You know what? This is kind of funny, but I think the second one probably has one of the stronger
Oh no, it
resolutions
easily does.
story wise. Not that like the rest of that movie kind of isn't that great, anyways. But I think as a whole, obviously the first one was kind of just doing its own thing, but then when you get into the sequels, they just struggle so hard to like figure out what the tone and what the style is. And I think like changing settings so much doesn't really do it any favors.
But bro, it's the concrete jungle now. It's cooler.
It's not, but
But
I don't know.
but
I
you
think
got
just the
rival
first one has so
gangs,
much
bro.
going for it.
The Jamaicans.
Nah, all of that is uninteresting. I don't know. I just feel like the first one handles a lot of its story elements better because you start out not really knowing what's going on or what the deal is, and then you're kind of just following this team of soldiers and whatnot. And I mean I like some of the the back and forth between a lot of the characters in terms of like them being like, what are we really doing here and whatnot. But then once the Predator stuff starts happening, that quickly doesn't really matter anymore. and it doesn't it never really treats it like it's that important again, which is something that like Predator 2 doesn't do very well. Um and I think the slow burn ish stuff works a lot better in this one when you there is a lot of mystery involving the Predator, and you are kind of just along with the characters trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, also, uh, something like to add on to that point too, because I thought you made a good point about that, is something that like I don't think clicks in our heads a lot too, is I think there's an idea of this invisible alien being able to beat up these like massive men is inherently scary, that I think the other films don't do well. Like, I think that's what makes
Yeah,
the Predator scary in the first one, that is taken away from the next two and turns them more into like those action adventure type films, is because the whole time is you're questioning how could anything take down Arnold Schwarzenegger, all these giant fucking ripped guys with like fucking carrying around miniguns, like the biggest baddest weapons possible, and the film figures out ways to do it and make these beefy men like not have to use their muscle but like their brain to like overcome the task.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of the reason why I don't dislike the way that this movie starts, because all these movies, like minus the third one, kind of take like 25-30 minutes to like for the main driving force of the plot to start. But this one I think handles a lot better because we're kind of getting to know the characters and their relationship with each other, and I like how you really get a good like sense and feel of their teamwork and the way that they operate, that helps set them aside from like your average like action star movie or whatever. And also just the fact that I know it is kind of silly in retrospect, watching like that opening like rescue scene or whatever, where they're just like mowing down this fucking camp. But going off of what you were saying, I think that helps with us building up how strong and effective the main cast is in their roles, like as soldiers and whatnot. That when the Predator starts killing them off one by one, you really feel the impact, because you're just like, damn, what kind of monster does it take to tear these people to pieces?
Yeah, and it goes to back to what you were saying with the whole idea of you not really knowing what is out there. Even on a rewatch, you like the whole speculation and mystery of like them learning not only about what's out following them in the forest, but the like small or slow unravel of like the real reason why they're there, which is the predator. Um, that I as much as like I'm not going to sit here and say I think Predator 2 is one a better film, two on a more enjoyable film, but I think it does service for a sequel. I don't know, does that make sense at all? Do like
I mean, I guess if you're going down the checklist, sure. I mean,
well, first of all, I think Danny Glover's fucking awesome. I'm a huge Danny Glover fan.
oh no, yeah, no, Danny Glover and fuck, what's his name, Bill
Bill
Paxton.
Paxton, Gary
They're great in this
Busey.
movie.
Yeah,
Eh,
I love them all.
there's I'm not saying that there's not anything interesting going on. I just don't think the movie does it really effectively. Like the whole like tagline or selling point of this movie is like, like you were saying, the concrete jungle, it's in the city and whatnot. But I don't really think it uses that in any really interesting way. Like when they're in the jungle in Predator, it's using the jungle to help, as an advantage to hunt and prey on the characters. But I never really get the sense that if they weren't in the city, they would maybe have like a better chance, like me referring to the protagonist or anything. Like it didn't feel like being in Los Angeles gave either party any real advantage over the other. and I don't think they really use the city setting in, a good way. So that's kind of my thing. I mean, among like, other things, like I don't really think the progression of the story is very good. It's a very slow movie, even though all of these movies have like the same runtime. And that's one thing that I will say about these movies, like as a whole, that I really don't enjoy, is that the climaxes of these movies are, they kind of overstay their welcome. Like they're a little too long.
Yeah, like they just kind of go on, and you're just like, wait, dude, you're still going? Like, dude, what?
Like literally, the way this movie should have ended in my mind is him overcoming his fear of heights and cutting off the predator's arm, and then him falling to his death. But instead, we get like an extra 20 minutes of him crawling down a pipe and the fucking predator cauterizing its wound and whatnot, and then they like chase each other to the ship and have another 1v1. It goes on way too long. Like, as cool as being on the inside of the predator ship is, it didn't really do anything for me. Like, I was kind of just sitting there like being like, this is an extra 15 minutes that I don't think we really needed. um but yeah.
No, I agree. My only issue thinking throughout the entire film was how bad I felt for Danny Glover throughout this filmmaking process, having to just be drenched in so much fucking water for this entire film. Like, dude, I don't think I've ever seen a sweatier fucking character in a film.
I think that I don't know. I feel like he just sweats like that. I don't think they
Dude,
gouged him or
I
anything.
don't know, bro. That motherfucker. I don't know. Stop shooting or something. He's
Because like
hyperventilating.
no one else is sweaty like that in this movie. That's why I'm
I
saying.
don't know,
So
bro.
I feel like
It's
it's
just
just
so
him.
funny, bro. Every time he's on screen, he just looks like he ran a marathon, and he's just
Yeah.
yelling. He's just yelling
You know what? Yeah.
constantly.
You know what I notice it the most, when he goes to the gravestone for
Oh my god, his partner.
his friend Danny, I think,
Yeah.
and he sees the necklace that he was wearing, and
Oh my god, dude, that fucking like the pan
he's
shots everywhere when he looks with the gun.
yeah,
What was that
and he's just
editing?
completely covered in
I
sweat.
said,
I
dude, I said the same thing. I'm like, bro, dude, when did they just like pour a bath over you in between all these shots?
I it was just really funny to me for some reason. But yeah, I also don't really understand why because in the first one you just get a sense that the predator is just picking them off one at a time, and not really any particular order. But in this one, it makes it like a point that it's specifically after Harrigan, but it has all these opportunities to like take him out and never does it, which I just kind of felt was weird. And then it keeps going after like all these gang members that I didn't really understand why it was.
Just cause, bro, they needed bloodshed.
I mean, I guess like just to pad out the runtime, but I noticed it, and that's kind of my issue, because the detective characters spend a majority of the runtime kind of just running around, not really knowing what's going on.
Just getting everywhere too late.
Yeah, and it got to the point where through the first half of the movie, I really just didn't care about what was going on. And then finally, when they started, like, when the predator started becoming more of like a threat to them, I started enjoying it more. But then it became a little too late, because fucking Bill Paxton's character just dies immediately.
Well, hey,
And
we can give Bill Paxton a trophy though.
oh, you talking about the fact that he's the only actor that's ever faced off against the Predator, a Xenomorph, and the
Well,
Terminator?
not only that, but he's died to all of them too. Because
Yeah.
it's been confirmed, even though he did just get thrown around like a little ragdoll bitch in the Terminator, he did die, in fact, during that scene in the beginning, guys. So I don't want to hear any of
Did
it.
people not think he
Yeah,
was?
no, there was a
Oh,
lot. Apparently, there's a lot of people. I was on like a video a few weeks back, and
but the movie is called The Terminator. The Terminator kills everything it comes in contact with.
yeah,
Like,
bro, he terminates.
I feel like it's a pretty easy assumption to be like, yeah, that dude's dead.
Honestly, common, just common knowledge is too easy to find nowadays. I think for people to be smart.
Yeah, but I will say I do enjoy his character in this movie. Like, I mean, if you're watching a Bill Paxton movie, he's probably going to be the best thing about it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just yeah, that's really all I can really say for this movie. I mean, like I said, it gets more interesting as it goes on, and what's his name, Harrigan is more included and active and like you know fighting against the predator. But then you get all like Gary Busey's character and all that government shit is really dumb and annoying, and it doesn't really add anything to the story.
Yeah, it just feels like it's trying to overcomplicate itself for being way too uncomplicated. I feel it
Yeah.
feels like they watched that first one and they're like, you know what, bro, this one's not really deep and not much really goes on. Not all these characters are really just a bunch of meathead stereotypes. So, and they just all die. Like, there's nothing else to it. So I think they probably got in their heads a little too much with this and try to make like, ooh, these two gangs are facing off against each other, but what does this predator have to do with it? Is it like this evil spirit that they're conjuring? Like, as the audience, we know it's not. But like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is all a bunch of fluff for stuff that amounts to nothing by yet again the halftime mark. Um,
Hmm.
and then that's the annoying part is the first two films just feel like they waste a lot of time talking and doing a bunch of pointless and useless tasks that don't develop the story or the characters, and all of the like the quote unquote character development happens towards the end. um like, bro, like I'm sorry, when I come out of Predator I shouldn't feel like the biggest lesson that Arnold learned was to use his brain before his muscles. Like, like, I'm sorry, right? And then I don't even know what Harrigan learned because going back to what you were saying, it probably would have
I mean,
meant.
he kind of just overcomes his fear of heights, but not
But
really.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He just says he does, but you don't really see him do it, and so that's really the frustrating point about it.
Well, I mean, he does in the sense that like he tackles the predator off of the building, and instead of worrying about his own safety, he takes that disc thing and cuts off the thing's
Well, if
hand or
he didn't
whatever.
worry about his own safety, he would have just said "fuck this shit" and rolled off with the bitch.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. It kind of works in the moment, but then again,
It
it
overcomplicates
goes
itself.
yeah, it overcomplicates. It just goes on way too long.
It's just like he gets stuck in like this apartment building and then he starts becoming like a fucking mixologist, the predator, for like a few minutes to heal himself. I'm like,
Yeah.
bro, is this like some character in a video game hiding behind a wall during like a boss fight so he can heal himself? And then Danny Glover's just like, like their version of character progression is Danny Glover facing his fears by going down like the pipe. And that's so stupid. Like, bro, you can take the stairs. You do not got to take this way
Oh
down.
yeah, that was funny. I did notice that when he was like, because there's a shot of him, going down the pole or whatever, and then just in the background, like very obviously, is a set of like stairs.
Yeah, I'm just like,
And I
bro,
was just
what?
like, why didn't you just walk over there and you wouldn't have this issue? I don't know. Like this movie's kind of all over the place. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's just not as good. And I do want to take a second to mention that this movie introduces an interesting concept to the like yautja um culture, I guess. Obviously in like all these movies they kind of have like a fucked up honor code or whatever. And I just thought it was interesting in this movie that you know it explicitly shows us that they won't kill a pregnant person or a pregnant woman. And I just thought that was really funny for some
Morals,
reason.
morals.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just it's that was something that I wasn't expecting, and part of me thinks that it's just these movies excuse to not show a woman getting like
Murdered.
brutally murdered. Cuz like the first one, you know, the what's her name? Anna doesn't get killed. Although I think it does it in a more natural way of like Dutch being like, "Oh, it didn't kill you cuz you were unharmed." And you know, he goes out of his way to make sure that the predator never sees her as a threat. But and then in this one it's just like cuz I know like I mean it's kind of hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure like he kills like the predator kills at least one woman cuz like everyone in that subway was packing for some reason.
Well,
I don't know what's
I
going
mean,
down in the City of Angels,
he
but
left the one woman alive in the apartment when the Jamaican
I mean that's
gang.
different though cuz you know my thing is just that the movies establish as kind of like a rule that if like they don't see you as a threat, they're not going to kill you. And even to the point in which like it can recognize when it's like the child in the cemetery is carrying like a fake gun or a toy gun and not a real one. And then like everyone in that subway, including women, have or like are shown to have weapons and stuff. But I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Like
No, I
it
get what you're
feels
saying.
overly convoluted just to avoid showing us a woman getting killed, I guess.
No, yeah, no, I agree. And it's saying something because I feel like Predator 2 has a lot of good moments in between all of the meh and all of like the
Yeah.
bad because that train sequence is actually really good. Um
I did think that was one of the better scenes, yeah.
I for I know like it's kind of an underwhelming plot narrative point, but I think the idea of Harrigan being in this predator spaceship and having like this little cultural pack of predators being revealed is a cool idea that I think we'll talk about a little bit more in Predators because I think that's the strongest point of it is like expanding the lore of what these two films give them. Um, bro, you can't tell me
I don't know.
you can't tell me it's not cool when the Predator takes Harrigan's partner's skull and spine to the top of the building with the lightning and just like chants it up.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I did find that kind of
Oh
silly.
no way, bro! I'm just like, dude, that's so badass. You're such a
The
bum,
only part
bro.
that
You're
made
so
it the
bum.
only part that went too far for me was when the lightning like strikes it or whatever.
It's
I
so
thought that was kind of
corny.
weird.
It's so
It is
corny.
really corny.
But I think it fits though. I think it fits because
Does it though?
yeah, but I think because the world that Predator 2 is set in and the first one is not a serious world. It's very clear. I don't know, bro.
In what regard though? Like I understand what you're saying.
So at least
Yes.
it, the first one is a little bit more atypical just because it's more just a bunch of meathead military men per se, but I feel like it's definitely more forefront in this second one. It feels like a hyper visualized, like futuristic LA. Like watching this film, this is the LA that I think people think LA looks like when like Trump is saying LA's lost as a state. Like that
Oh no, yeah,
like
yeah,
this
yeah.
is the LA that like I picture in my head that I think those people picture. And
Yeah,
to
probably.
me, it feels like a hyper realistic version of LA that I don't think ever happens. And so, like, the Jamaicans just feel overly, like, everyone just kind of feels overly characterized, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
Danny Glover, he's just inherently, like, Harrigan is just, like, extra mad for some reason. Like, but then you've got, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name again? Not Gary Busey, Bill Paxton. He's just like
Jerry?
Jerry. He's like that typical really on his nose rookie cop, but like he's also a massive douche at the same time. Like, and so when I'm watching these characters, I don't know. There's so many different personalities. Whereas the first one, they're all a lot of the same personalities, just kind of explored differently. That makes
Mm.
me like them all in the first one a lot more than I do in the second one.
Yeah, I mean, the first one uses like, you know, the archetypes in a much more interesting way than Predator 2 or even Predators does. And I think that's where the main fault is, that it gets to a point where you're kind of just like, do I really care about some of these characters? Not really. And so when, they're constantly being faced with, their own impending death, you don't really feel that same sense of dread as you do when you're watching the first one.
Which is why, going back to your point on the ending of the second one, is why I think like if Harrigan like died by falling or something, it would have made me care about him a little bit more, because I find it really hard to connect with him as a protagonist throughout most of the film. I just kind of find him really unlikable, and that's the hardest part for me to get over, is because by the time you get to the ending, they don't do anything to make you like him. And so, or like make you respect his choices, not even like him. Like, I don't feel like he progresses as a character, and that's my biggest issue. Whereas I feel like Dutch and Anna by the end of the first one definitely feel like different people coming out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, all of the characters kind of do, even the ones that don't survive. I just, I don't know. I think my main problem with Predator 2 is the lack of like a cohesive world building. Because even though, like in the first one, you spend the majority of time, just in this jungle with them, but you get a good sense of their relationship with each other, and like a good sense of kind of who they are, like deep down. Dutch has his whole like, moral thing with like, oh, I'm not an assassin, we don't do this. And then you've got Carl Weathers' character, what's his name? Fuck, now I can't remember. Dylan, being, like the typical like, do what you have to soldier kind of guy. I don't know. It feels like there's more personality, even though there's, they're kind of they're kind of like just like we were talking about, like basic archetypes, but there's just a little sprinkle of extra stuff that kind of makes you understand their motivations and why they make the decisions they do. And then I didn't get that in Predator 2.
Well, I think what makes it help in the first one is you have a clear understanding of Dylan and Dutch's relationship before anything happens. So by the time you get to the twist of why they're actually on the mission, you get that sense of betrayal, but like you get a sense of their relationship and how this alters the character's relationship, that by the time that Dylan dies, you kind of feel bad, because seeing how they started as friends in the beginning, and their characters never resolve their issues with each other, that's the type of stuff that I appreciate a little bit more, rather than like Harrigan just going around on a cop tirade telling his young predecessor to do all of his dirty work so he could just go in guns blazing when he has like the photos, you know?
Yeah.
Because like by the time you get introduced to all the characters around Harrigan, the only one that has real like meaning dies pretty early on,
Yeah.
and the rest of the characters are just kind of like moseying around, dipping in and out. Like the pregnant female cop, she kind of feels like she just dips in and out of the story, just kind of casually, and so you have a hard time really understanding what any of their relationships are with the characters and Harrigan. So when anything ever happens, you really just don't care. And as like the first one doesn't have a lot going for it, you still have that little bit that keeps you as like, I feel like, the audience connected and invested enough that the second one just never gets to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Let's get to Predators, because I feel like I don't think we'll be too divisive on this one, but I feel like your opinions on it aren't what I expected. So I'll let you start.
In what regard?
I don't know. It feels like I'm not saying I'm not saying it's the best one, especially out of these three or any of the Predator films, but
Hmm.
I definitely think it's a solid film. I think it's well made. It's not the most amazing script, but I think it takes a lot of what made the first one work and does something different that I think is interesting enough.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
that's my argument. I'm not sitting here saying like it's as fun because I think the film is too serious for its own like doing. That's my biggest issue with it.
yeah. So yes, I 100% agree with everything you just said. So I definitely have a bit of a soft spot for this one because, like we were talking about earlier, this is essentially what my introduction into the Predator franchise was. I think I saw it on like a fucking like Cinemax channel or something or whatever back when I had cable, and this couldn't have been like more than 2 or 3 years after the movie came out, and so I didn't understand what the concept was. And I didn't see the first Predator film for like a couple years after I saw this one. So to me, I was watching it completely like unaware of its history and like really what the Predators were. And that is both a good and a bad thing because obviously this movie doesn't really go out of its way to explain certain things that you kind of miss if you haven't seen the other ones. Um, but as a first time watch, I didn't really notice them as much, and I was kind of just I think the concept of this movie is really what you know takes it or elevates it further than really anything else. Because if you're just watching it as like you know a first time viewer with no prior knowledge of the franchise, then you can really just sit back and just enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, I mean, going back to what you were saying, yeah, this one's definitely not the best, but I mean, I don't rank it that far below the first one, and I think the characters are a little more interesting than Predator 2. Not all of them, but some of them. And going off what you were saying about its kind of overly serious tone, um, I kind of think Adrian Brody's the worst part of this movie because he's taking it too seriously. Like he kind of has like a Batman voice going on the whole time, and they don't really do anything that interesting with his character. I want to say, part of that is just it is an ensemble and there's a lot going on, and so I feel like some of the more or what should be more character driven progression is taken up by more plot driven stuff, if that makes sense. And I don't hate what they do with his character. It's just you can kind of see it coming. And yeah, I think because what this came out in 2010, so I was what 8.
Yeah, I
Is that
saw this
right?
in theaters too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was like 7 or 8 when I saw it, and so as a young child with no real idea of the difference between good and bad, like in terms of quality, not like in terms of like
Evil and good.
behavior. Yeah. But I mean, with with no real understanding of the difference between quality in things, I really liked it. But with each time that I return to it, I kind of see more of the flaws. And I'm actually kind of shocked at how much I remembered from this movie, but also as much that I didn't remember from this movie. Because I remember Lawrence Fishburne's character being in this movie, but I don't remember like some of the stuff that he does in the movie. Same for like Topher Grace's character, which when I first watched this movie, it didn't bug me, but when I just watched it, it kind of did bug me his inclusion in this movie.
Oh yeah, dude, his inclusion makes little to no sense.
I think on paper it makes sense, but in execution,
It
when
makes
like
sense because he's a murderer, but it
yeah,
doesn't make sense because he wants to stay there. So why is he going through all of that extra
yeah,
effort to like poison
to evade
her,
them,
to evade
yeah.
them? Like why is he being like, yeah, I'll go with you guys to get off this planet if you just want to stay here? Like it
Well, yeah, because that's the other thing too. Like he makes a big deal about
staying there and like
no, not even that. Like when he gets injured at the end, and he's really upset that Royce is like wants to leave him there. I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
Like literally 5 minutes later, he's just like, I want to stay. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I don't
just so
know.
weird. Like the whole, I don't hate the reveal. I just hate the way they did it because not a lot of
Yeah,
it makes sense. Because I think inherently it is a really good idea. Because most of the time you're subconsciously thinking, "Why is he here?" But you're never really thinking it because most of the time there's just kind of things going on to never make you think about it long enough as to why like this random doctor's here with an IDF agent, a fucking what is he, ex-US
cartel.
special operations forces, cartel members, like literally all some dude on fucking death row in San Quentin. Like it's just like so obviously there that I think the film does a really good job at making the audience not aware of it, that the reveal itself just makes it that much worse, I think.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it comes out of left
Yeah, it
field.
feels out of left field and it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
I don't know. My thing is like I understand. Obviously, there has to be a reason why he's there, but when the only real like I guess hint that something's off about him is him lying about having kids like 5 minutes before it happens. And it also doesn't help that when you're obviously when you're watching the movie, you kind of have an idea by the pace and the structure of of the film up to that point, like oh, this is gearing up to end. Even though after I've seen I had literally just watched the other two movies right before this. I shouldn't have assumed this, but I assumed the movie was coming to an end. And so when the reveal happens, I was like, this reveal, this like last minute twist right before the end of this movie, because I legit thought the movie was going to end in like 5 minutes after this, forgetting what movie I was watching, and just to immediately realize that there was like another 15 minutes of the movie left. So but while you're watching it in the moment, you're just like, this feels a little too close to the end, for comfort. So that's my problem with the reveal.
Yeah, it just feels random out of nowhere, and it doesn't feel earned or really needed. It doesn't do
Yeah,
anything, so it makes me really just question it. And his character kind of just takes up space and time that
yeah,
equivalates to absolutely nothing, and that's frustrating because I love Topher Grace as an actor.
yeah.
Um,
I will say, he's
he's
a good
really good.
actor. He's good in this
I think
movie.
everyone's
His character
aside from Adrian Brody, I think everyone's actually pretty solid in this movie. I really like Walton Goggins. Lawrence Fishburne, for the small amount of role he has in this film, I think him talking to like the ghost next to him or like the hallucinations, I think he just does so well and really he sells him being there like
for a
for
long
a long
time.
time really well. And that's what I inherently like so much about this film is I feel like this film is just breathing trying to develop a background for who these predators are. And I think that's something the film needed to do because I just think it's interesting that I think it's during the conversation with Lawrence Fishburne that he kind of hints that all of these people could be taken from like different times. And I think that's inherently prevalent with when you look at like the killer of killers post credit scene. Like if they just like not embody people but like keep them frozen in time and just keep them in a stasis, that they can just throw them into a planet that they have that's a hunting ground, and every time the current like predator dies they use that as a change to like up like I like the world building they do in that instance, that the world that they're on is a uses like the hunting ground to get themselves more and more advanced and to learn from like different species and cultures and stuff like that, and like as a way
Yeah,
to explain like why do they have like all of this like super advanced technology, why are we seeing like different time, like the way all of the characters talk about where they come from seems like different eras with I think it's who's the Russian guy? Is it
Nikolai.
Nikolai? Yeah, like Nikolai talks about just coming home from the Second War. And so if you think about that, that had to be in like the 80s or something, I think, when Russia was like in any serious big war, like before
He says he was
2010.
fighting in
Yeah, in
Chechnya.
Chechnya, the Chechnyan War, which was like the 80s, late 80s, I'm pretty sure. Late early 90s. Sorry, you might have to correct
Um,
me on this, guy. Sorry, I'm not.
so Russian federal control was restored in the Second Chechen War of 1999 to 2009. So I mean, it
Okay,
wasn't
so it
that
wasn't that
far.
far
Yeah.
off.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't think that was ever their intent. I did like. I think there's a part in the movie where I kind of thought that that's where it was going, and because I didn't remember, like I remember about half of this movie, I genuinely thought like, oh, I must have forgot this in the movie, and so I assumed that that's where it was going, and it never explicitly says it.
Well, you can think
There
about
are
Lawrence Fishburne's
instances.
character. He talks about how long he's been there. Like
Oh yeah, but I
you
mean, he
don't
does.
know what like that
He doesn't
equivalent
say like,
is.
yeah, he doesn't say like any time in terms of year, and I thought that was the moment where we were gonna realize like, oh, this dude is from like, I don't know, 19 fucking 21 or something. But so that's why I feel like it wasn't the intent, but I think it's interesting filling that in your head. And I think I still like that idea that like you're not really ever sure of like where these people came from, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, and I think that's the really interesting part about this film. And I think that's what makes it work inherently for me, for kind of taking itself way too seriously, that it bogs it down like in the middle of the film and at the end a little bit for me. Um, is like that's what like that's why I think the opening of this film is such a good hook. It's a great way of getting people like guessing, damn, what's going on. And I like the small little, like, not Easter egg, but like note that I guess not everyone that like falls in their parachutes open, or like they don't wake up fast enough, because as soon as he lands, the guy falls in between him and Danny Trejo, and he's just like, "Yep, I guess his parachute didn't open fast enough." And I'm like, "Damn, bro, so do they straight up just drop these motherfuckers in cages and shit, and just be like, yep, let's just hope the fucking parachutes open?" Like, damn, bro, that's not a good way to start off your hunting ground.
Yeah, I mean, I think this movie gets away with like not explaining as much because I like, I don't really care that we don't if I don't really care if we don't get
They explain
answers.
enough without explaining everything, and I think that's
Yeah,
what
I
they
think
needed to
there's
do.
there's enough in this movie that brings up, more interesting questions that I'm left being like, "Oh, that didn't feel like a waste of time. It felt like something more, new and interesting." And that's kind of the vibe that I get from this movie. And I think at this point in the franchise, especially after because this movie came out after the two AVP movies,
Yuck.
I think this franchise really needed to kind of reinvent itself, but not really. Like it's kind of like a soft reboot.
Well, yeah, it's a
Um,
lot of the similar plot beats from that original Predator film.
yeah, but just in like I was saying earlier, I definitely think the concept of this movie carries it a lot because it's just really interesting throwing like,
All these terrible people.
yeah, you're used to seeing the predators go to a different planet and doing their hunt, and I like that in this movie it's the opposite, and so they bring the ensemble here. But I like that it uses the idea of them, wanting it to be like a challenging sport in bringing like just the most horrible people together, and that also helps with like the character, or I guess lack thereof, character development. Like I honestly did not think that I was going to like Walter Goggins' character, or sorry, Walton Goggins' character in this movie, but then I just kind of like, I mean, obviously he's still a horrible person, but I enjoyed the performance, and I like, you know what I mean, right? I'm not
No,
saying that
yeah, I know what
because
you say.
he
Yeah,
says some questionable things in this movie,
I
but
mean, bro, they all say super questionable things in this film.
Yeah. And
Um,
I just I do think that sometimes it feels like this movie is trying a little too hard to like move away from like the 80s schlock type stuff, but in doing so it kind of ages itself more by being like you can tell this movie came out in 2010. Like it's I'm sorry, I can't help but not just point out Adrian Brody. Like I think he's a good actor. It's just he's trying way too hard to be like imposing, I guess,
the
like as a
my
leader.
my issue is this is where I'm frustrated with it. Is I like him as an actor, like you were saying. I think he has the proper build for it, but it's just like his acting. Like he's trying to do this super like deep and masculine voice that is so obviously not his voice. Like you can
Yeah.
see him
Well, cuz
struggling, like trying to get the
we all know what
rasps.
Adrian Brody sounds
Yeah, and
like.
you can literally see his throat like choke up when he tries to get like all that heavy rasp out of his voice when he talks, and you
Yeah.
could just tell it's super unnatural for him. And I think that's the part in the performance that really brings it down. Is I believe that he would be an ex-U.S. Special Force operations vet, but he's just. If I feel like he's trying to act like one, that's the issue.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it might have been more beneficial to have Adrian Brody just be a little more like himself, I guess. And cuz he doesn't need to be the buff, macho loner dude. Like, he can have him say a joke or something. Like he doesn't need to always be the straight man because everyone else in this movie is kind of like that. Um and I don't know, it's really off-putting because he just feels like the sore thumb that's sticking out the entire runtime. And I think that also would have helped with his character because like I was saying before, his character arc isn't the most compelling. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I yeah.
that's where I think the film inherently just runs into a problem when you make the central plot line a bunch of around a bunch of terrible people, because you don't also want to like make these awful people that sympathetic, I feel like, at the same time. And
I mean, I think for the most part it gets around it because like obviously Walton Goggins has his moment where like right before he dies. Same with the Yakuza dude. The Yakuza dude has probably my favorite scene in this
but see,
entire movie.
th- that's the thing though, is like some of these people are ex what they were, and some of them are still what they were. And that's where like I have a little bit of issue, I feel like, with it. Is just like Adrian Brody and the Yakuza dude are both ex special ops and Yakuza. Meanwhile, Anna is still an IDF agent. Um, fucking oh my god, why did I forget the Russian's dude name again?
Nikolai.
Nikolai.
It's literally the
Yeah, dude,
easiest
I know.
Russian
It's
name to
literally
remember.
that, bro. I keep saying that. It's the most. It's the easiest one to remember too. Fucking Nikolai's still in the army, so I feel like inherently they all just don't. They're trying to all have the same background, but they all don't have the same moral input. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's like coming off correctly, but I feel like the film is trying to tell us they're all morally the same, but their backgrounds tell you they shouldn't be. And I feel like that's like what my issue is.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
I
maybe,
understand what you're saying. Even though that's not particularly my issue, I think the main takeaway is just that the character development in this movie is not as good as it probably should be.
well, I think I was about to mention, I think another like qualm I have with the movie is the pacing is kind of all over the place. I think the first like 30 minutes are really good, and then the next like 40-ish minutes are kind of a slog to get through, because that's when you have to do all of the story, because you had to spend so
Yeah.
much time introducing like fucking 10 different characters when 5 of them are just going to get killed off in the next 40 minutes. And especially when one of them makes it all the way to the end to equivalent to nothing. And then you introduce another character in the middle of all this to just give you some info dump that is nice for an audience member, but if you're like for the story, it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't really help them. Because all of the info that they use to help them defeat the predators are all the stuff that Anna used or told them all about the first film. So that's why I'm just like I struggle. Is just like they didn't pick and choose correctly where they wanted to use their story resources.
Yeah, I agree with that. As interesting as Nolan's character is, and as fun as Lawrence Fishburne is in the role, it really doesn't add anything other than, I guess them finding out about the what's it
The
called,
ship.
the spaceship. I mean, there's some interesting info dump about like the blood feud stuff, but I feel like that's, yeah, I mean,
But that's
it's
only
not.
important
It's
as the audience. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
for
it's
the
it's
people
not
in the scene,
important.
like why like that they don't really care about that because it doesn't mean much. I really think
Yeah, because I feel like the main thing with like Adrian Brody's plan is, the blood feud part is not important. It's just the thing that's important is that he can use the tied up predator as kind of leverage to get onto the ship. And so like the whole blood feud stuff doesn't really have a point. Like you already get the point across that like, oh, this predator is different and it's, I don't even think I understood when I first saw this movie, like back in like 2013, like what exactly the deal was with the tied up predator. I just was like, oh, this one's a prisoner for some reason, and they're gonna team up, and that's kind of cool. But I think all like the blood feud stuff kind of flew over my head.
yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think that's like one of the more interesting aspects with the film and just how it world builds the like this feud or rivalry within the predators themselves and how they use the battleground or like the the testing ground. I don't know, like what's it called, a planet that they're using
I
to
mean, they
hunt
just call it
everyone
like
on.
a reserve,
Uh, yeah, it's
or
like a hunting
yeah,
ground.
yeah.
Um, but I like how the hunting ground is also kind of like a dick measuring site for all the predators, where they just throw the current ones in there to die, so the rest of them can figure out a way to evolve. Like I like that. I think it's pretty cool. Like I, I just want some film. Maybe it's Badlands that do it that go a little bit deeper, but I just want like another like Predator like adjacent film, Predators adjacent film that kind of digs more into like the mythology of predators.
I
I
mean,
don't
yeah,
know.
I'm pretty sure you're describing Predator Badlands.
I think so, but like as far as I know, it sounds like a movie where they send him to a different planet to like prove he's worthy. So I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious to see the movie because I have no clue really what it's about outside of that.
I mean, I haven't seen it. I'm basing what I'm saying off of like what I've seen from like the trailers and stuff.
Honestly,
Yeah.
probably will be that knowing my luck.
I thought about going to go see this yesterday, but I was too lazy. So, um, but yeah, I think this movie overall is it's a stronger effort in this franchise, especially knowing that the next one after this. I think my main issue that we were talking about earlier with like the lack of resolution is that this movie ends in a really interesting way that it just never really comes back to. Like this concept overall is just completely forgotten by the next movies. And I really think that another thing that I really dislike about the Predator is how it kind of just openly disregards everything that came before, including this movie. Like yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's not a worthy follow-up of anything.
No, yeah, I agree, and I kind of feel like that's just like the franchise as a whole. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I'll give it props for being worse than the Alien versus Predator movies, but
Dude,
I
nothing
feel
can be
like
as
that.
bad as those.
No, I think are you saying the Predator is worse than the AVP movies?
Uh, Can I
I mean,
just
isn't
categorize
worse.
them
Sorry.
together? They're both equally
Uh,
shit for equally different reasons. Like I
okay,
still have
I'll
this
take
I
that.
still
I'll
have the
take
same
that.
hatred for the both of them, just for totally different reasons. Like
I hate the second one because, well, I mean, obviously it's dumb, but I just really hate that it's like set in Colorado. That's the part that miffs me the most. Because the first one is all right. I mean, yeah, it's a fucking fuck, what is it called? What is his name? The something Anderson. Anderson?
oh my god, bro! I know who you're talking about. I can't think. I'm
The
thinking,
dude who
trying to think of
directed
it.
fucking Resident Evil. What the fuck is his name? Why can't I remember? Paul W. S. Anderson. It's a Paul W. S. Anderson movie. So I don't know. I don't think you can really walk into that movie without some inkling of what it is, like what it's going to be. And I think overall it's fine. Um, it is PG-13, which is
Whack.
just why. But Requiem is really bad.
Well, I
You
don't
you
even
know
know
you know
why.
you know Alien, the Alien versus Predator duology is the Rob Zombie Halloween version of these two franchises.
Nah, bro, don't do Rob Zombie like that.
No,
Fucking
I
nah,
would
bro.
probably say that.
Bro, literally, I don't even know how the fucking MPAA gave Alien versus Predator Requiem like a fucking rating at all, because you can't see anything in the fucking film. Like, how
It
do
is
they see?
really dark.
Like, bro, how did they see any of the violence or like the tits or stuff? Like, or they use a microscopes? Like, oh, dude, these children are gonna use their iPhones and go like fucking X10 to look at the fucking corneas on all these girls' nips. Like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like, dude, these movies, like, I hate the fucking Alien versus Predator films with every like grain of salt in my body.
But I mean, you have to admit though, it does really follow the same path as the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, and that the first one is kind of whatever, and then the second one just doubles down on everything that's bad about the first one.
Yeah, I guess. I just don't hate the first as much as I hate. I don't know. The first Alien Requiem film I just hate more than I could ever hate Rob Zombie's first Halloween film. Like, I think there's a further gap in my hatred between Rob Zombie Halloween 1 and Rob Zombie Halloween 2 than I think Requiem and AVP 1. But yeah, do you want to get into ratings for these films?
Yeah, yeah, we
All
might
right,
as well.
I think I gave some good reviews for this on Letterbox. Do you want to go first or me?
You can go first.
All right, I gave the Predator 4 stars out of 5. Can we all just agree that the Predator is just a horny, misunderstood T Rex? I think we can. I didn't give a review for the second one, but I gave it 2 stars. And then for Predators, I gave it 3.5, and I wrote, yeah, these Predators definitely aren't the horny T Rex kind. I'll leave my piece with you, Leonardo.
All right, I gave Predator a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought about giving it 4.5, but it's not as iconic as this movie is. It's not that good, but it is still a very fun movie to return to. The second one I gave a 3. It's That's kind of what I would call watchable. It's not the most enjoyable experience, but it's just kind of whatever. It's trying too hard to be different but the same, if that makes sense. Like, it's a different setting and whatnot, but it's still doing a lot of the same stuff, just not as good. And then I gave Predators a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think it is, like you said, a solid effort.
Yep, absolutely agree. Without that said, Leo, what are we watching next week?
All right, coming up, we are doing a little Edgar Wright detour because Running Man is coming out on, I want to say, the 14th.
Yeah, it's,
Um
it's coming out this Friday.
Yeah, so it's coming out soon. So we're gonna watch Baby Driver, Hot Fuzz, and Shaun of the Dead.
We might have to change Baby Driver to The World's End to bro. We're doing two of the three Cornetto trilogy films. We might as well just do the trilogy at that point instead.
I mean, yeah, I'm down with whatever. I think we just put Baby Driver because I hadn't seen it, and I think I was more interested in watching that one.
Trust me, you're gonna be interested in all three of the Cornettos, my guy. I think you'll
I've
like
heard
them.
I've heard a lot of good things about
So I'll
these
say this:
movies.
I think The World's End is a wildly misunderstood film. I think it's a film that's super heavily underrated and people like give way too much shit for. Like the last time I checked, I think the rating was like on IMDb in the low to mid 50s, right? It could
It's
be
a
even lower.
6 on IMDb. It's a 6.9 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's an 89%, and on Letterboxd, it's a 3.6 out of 5.
Okay, I didn't realize it was
So,
so high on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay.
yeah, that is interesting. I mean,
So
the
maybe
other
maybe it's
ratings
gone
are a
up
little
since
lower.
maybe it's gone up since then because The World's End has always been the film that I feel like I've heard people talk less upon. But do you know anything about it? Because I don't want to spoil it for you.
I saw the trailer a long time ago. That's what I'll
I'll
say.
be honest, I don't even know if the trailer says. I don't know what the trailer even has in it. So
If because this one has Martin Freeman in it, right?
yeah,
Okay, then I'm thinking of the right one.
it's a group of friends that go back to like their hometown and complete the
Yeah.
Golden Mile, which is like
What
a
I
ring of
remember from the
pubs.
trailer is that they're a group of friends and they, reunite in their old town or whatever. And I'm assuming Simon Pegg's character realizes that a bunch of these people are like robots or something. Is that correct?
Close,
I don't
close.
know. There's some sort of conspiracy involving the people not really being people or something.
Yeah, it has a really, I think, it's a deep underlying message that
Mm.
I don't think a lot of people talk about when they like talk about the film. So I'm interested just to talk about those films with you for like a first time watch. With that said, thank you guys so much for joining us this weekend. Let us know down in the comments below what you guys think of Predator, Predator 2, and Predators. Wow, that's a fucking tongue twister. And with that said, we'll see you on the next one. Peace!